Okay, we're going to work on problem 12-16 together. This calculates the net present value. We're going to use the net present value to determine whether or not this is a good investment. So Skyline Corporation will invest $130,000 in a project that won't begin to produce returns until after the third year. From the end of the third year until the end of the 12th year, which is 10 periods, the annual cash flow will be $34,000. If the cost of capital is 12%, should this project be undertaken? All right, so I've drawn for you a timeline here that we can sort of follow to help us understand the timing of these payments. The first initial investment, according to this, is $130,000. So we're going to invest $130,000. Okay, and remember that's an investment, so we're going to treat that as a negative number. And then the project will not begin to produce returns. So at the end of year 1, the beginning of year 2, there isn't a return. End of year 2, beginning of year 3, there is no return. But at the end of year 3, beginning of year 4, end of the third year until the 12th year, this is 10 periods. So during this time frame, which is 10 periods, we're going to receive $34,000 a year. Okay? All right. If the cost of capital is 12%, should this project be undertaken? So at this point, we can kind of follow this. CFO, which is our initial cash flow, will be $130,000. Our initial cash flow, our very first cash flow, you can see what happens here. We have 2 years of cash flow at 0. And what's the frequency? 2. There are 2 years where we will not receive any cash. And then at the end of the third year, we begin to receive $34,000. Okay. And FO2, according to this, is 10 periods. All right, so we have the information we need to plug this into our calculator. Let's get our calculators, turn them on, and clear all your work. I always push the clear button first. Okay, we're going to be using the CF tool, again, the cash flow tool. So push the CF button, and then you want to push second and CEC. That clears all of our numbers from the cash flow tool. So now everything should be cleared from this, and we should be able to then to enter this information. So right now on your calculator you should see CFO. All right, we're going to enter 130000 and push the plus minus key and then enter. Okay, don't forget to enter the enter button. That programs that number into CFO. Now we use the arrow down key. We're going to arrow down and we should see CO1, 0, and enter. And then FO1, if we arrow down again, that should be 2, and enter. CO2, if we arrow down again, we should see CO2, and that should be $34,000, and enter. And then arrow down one more time to FO2, and we want to make sure that is 10, so we type 10, and then enter. Okay, so our cash flow figures are all programmed into the calculator, and now we want to use the NPV tool. Okay, and you'll find that this requires us to use also an interest rate. So we have an interest rate here. according to the problem. The cost of capital is 12%, and we will use that in our calculation. You'll see just in a minute. So push the NPV button, and you'll see the very first thing is I. Okay? So when you see that, go ahead and type our 12% and enter. And then arrow down, and the next thing you'll see is NPV equals, and push the compute button. And we get a positive 23,146.99. 23,146.99. So the question is, should this project be undertaken? And the answer is, if we see that the net present value is positive, we would say yes.